Order, as they say. Right. Can I welcome everyone to the part one of the South West London Committee for Collaborative Decision Making in Common, and I think we are publicly streamed, is that right? Good, excellent. So welcome to our mass audience out there and to our one member of the public. I don't propose to go around the table and introduce everyone because we all know who we are, and if any issues, it's okay. Can we, I think we're all here, so there's no apologies, and each of the CCGs is quorate, which is important. Are there any declarations of interest that anybody needs to make or wants to make in relation to this, above and beyond the sort of standard list that is published regularly? No? Okay. Right. Well, I'll look then to move on to the substance of the meeting, which is moving forward together. And Sarah, are you going to introduce this?
So you will remember that in March, the CCG governing bodies agreed that we wish to move towards a merger of the 6 South West London CCGs, and that we have had regular updates since the March meetings, and we are having ongoing discussions with our partners, LMCs, our members and others about the merger. Now, we have to, if we wish to merge, which we have said we do, have an application into the regulators by Monday in order to meet a deadline to merge by the 1st of April next year, by April 2020. So we have pulled together a lot of information and evidence that the regulators require us to do to submit through an electronic system. So we're not bringing all of the evidence here because a lot of it is just public documentation that's already there or draft documentation for the future. But what we have done is we've pulled together an overarching document and all of our governance documents that will be part of the new governance process for the new CCG for South West London. And these are the documents that will be taken to our members. There will be some slight updates because we're still updating at the moment, they're in draft currently, that we will be taking to the members next month for them to vote on. So what we are doing today, so Ben is going to talk you through the document, and at the end of it, what we're here today to do is to confirm that we're happy to make the application, which we have agreed we want to do, but just to make sure we're happy to submit that. And then to make sure that we can then recommend to our members, who ultimately make the decision, that we think they should support the new constitution going forwards.
Okay, thank you. So Ben.
Thanks. So I'll start by just running through the covering paper that I provided you with. And this starts by setting out the 10 criteria set by NHS England against which our application will be assessed against. As a part of these papers then, I've provided you with a briefing document about our application and the governance documents that will be supporting the new CCG. I think the key documents are probably those listed at the end of page 2 really, so the constitution, scheme of reservation, delegation, standing orders and the borough terms of reference in that. I'll cover the end of this paper now rather than skipping ahead, but we agreed at the beginning of September with our LMCs and NHS England that we would submit this application at the end of this month without having held our membership votes. They'll happen, as Sarah said, in October, and the agreement for that is on the proviso that if we did get one membership voting against the new constitution, that we would then withdraw our application. And then I've just given you the dates on which the membership votes will be happening. So if I just briefly run you through the briefing document. So this starts by setting out the context within which we are working, both locally actually and nationally, and the drivers for the changes and our reasoning for why we think we need to continue with the merger of the 6 CCGs. Briefly covers the benefits that we think we will realise as a result of this merger, and then some of the challenges that we think we'll face and the mitigating actions against these as well. I've got a brief bit about the system that we are operating within here in South West London. And then more detail about how we think this will actually work in as a setup of a new CCG. So something about how the governing body and the borough committees will work, and place-based committees, as well as some of the voting arrangements that we'll have in place on the governing body. Obviously the statutory committees that we'll have, and the management structure for the new CCG. We then move on to a section about communications and engagement activity that has been going on over the past month with all of our stakeholders, and what we've done in that space, and also the work that we have been doing within individual CCGs with each other around how we're working jointly as a system and individual CCGs within that. Importantly, we cover a section on our public sector equality duties, and obviously setting out our commitments to that. And then the end of the document really just covers off some of the governance matters that are stipulated by NHS England and that we need to fulfil in order to move forward with our application. So I realised that was a fairly brief quick canter through the documents, but I was hoping that you will have read them as well. But obviously I'm happy to take any detailed questions on that.
Thank you. Questions? These have been extensively discussed in all sorts of fora, haven't they? So, include Andrew.
Yeah, I think it probably is just worth saying the lack of questions isn't because we haven't been questioning, but I think we've all had the opportunity in our individual governing bodies to go through this in some detail, and I know there's been quite a lot of question and challenge over certain things, and that's helped shape where we're at today. So certainly from a Merton perspective, it's not that we haven't felt the need to challenge and test this, but we feel what we've got in front of us is the result and the product of that, really.
Thank you. Sarah.
Is it worth me just setting out sort of the membership and how we're going to take that forward, just so people are aware, and some of the work that we've done with the membership and the LMCs to get the governance documents to where they are? That'd be helpful.
That'd be useful.
So you've got a number of governance documents here, remembering that the vote that the members will be taking is to say they support the new constitution of the new CCG. And these documents are all the documents that are the constitution and those documents that are associated with the constitution, such as the standing orders and others. So we've been doing a lot of work across South West London with LMCs at Surrey, Sussex and London level, but also at a local level, with members themselves. So we've had lots of membership meetings in every borough with the members, with individual members. So some of our members are quite interested in the detail, and we have got, so I know that there's a GP in Kingston, James, who has sent us in lots of information and questions which we've then responded to on an individual basis, and we've had weekly meetings in Croydon with the members and the LMC to make sure we go through all of this. And we've also had discussions with local authorities who, through Jed Curran in Merton, have actually commented on some of the detail of the governance documents as well. And we also have a governance oversight group where there are lay members from every CCG who help us to make sure we've got this right around the whole of the governance aspects of the new constitution. So that we haven't got a finalised document. We've got a document that I think is as near as final as we can get to at this point. I think that we have taken into consideration the views of the members and the LMCs, and what we will be doing now is just finalising some of the things that we've still got to change, and we have got a tracker of all the comments that we've received, and then we will be sharing that draft of the documents with the membership before they take a vote, which will be, the votes start next week and they run through till 17th, 18th of October. So we have got various votes happening throughout that timescale. What we will then do with this governance documentation is we will finalise it, so there might be some I's and T's that need dotting and crossing, and there is probably just some tidying up generally that we have to do, and then we will, and we've still got some documents that we've still got to finalise before we would actually get to the final 1st of April deadline. However, the amount of information we have here is enough for our members to make a decision. I think that's really important. And then when we've done all of that, we will just run that past the solicitors, make sure that the lawyers are happy with what we are doing. And if we get any amendments at all, we will take that for a final review through the membership before we go live. So that's kind of how we got to this set of documentation, and that's how we will take it forward post application.
Thank you. I wonder if it would be helpful, particularly to members of the public who are now be listening, if the chairs could just outline briefly, what's going to happen with the members, what their plans are for consultation with members.
Sorry. I'm Naz Giovanna, Chair, Kingston CCG, and we've had extensive discussions with our membership on a one-to-one basis, as well as in meetings with our membership, as well as local LMC meetings that we've been invited to actually get some feedback on some of the documentation, and also as well as at the South West London level, the meetings that we're having there. Our members have been really proactive in providing comments and directions just to make sure that we've got the documentation as robust as we can. There are certain elements around the documentation that is now reflected to try and create a very local focus on the delivery of services. And so we're going to go to our membership on the 8th of October for the votes, and our membership are going to do a secret ballot vote, and we're going to hold it on the 8th of October, and I think we're the first ones that do go. So at the moment, I feel that our membership is in a good position. They've got a very good knowledge about the documentations that we put forward, and we're not seeing very much in the way of questions coming back, because a lot of them, as Andrew has said before, a lot of them have been answered over the last few months, and we are, and many thanks again to Ben for the amount of work that he's been putting into this, to be able to create a tracker to say what's been happening with their comments and how it's been adjusted in the documentation.
Thank you. Andrew.
So Andrew Murray, Chair of Merton CCG. Like Naz, we've had a number of conversations really from the first point when we were starting to think about this, and we've taken that through the membership. They've raised some sensible questions and concerns which we've fed into our deliberations, but my membership largely seemed quite settled about it and seemed to see the reasons for doing it, and seemed very supportive. We had a membership meeting where we asked them how they would like to vote, and they wanted to do it in 2 existing locality meetings that we've already got scheduled, and they want to do it by show of hands. So that's how we're going to do it. We don't have anything set in our constitution for how you get the membership to vote on changes to the constitution, so we've decided to go with what they wanted, which is a show of hands, and we're looking for a majority in favour.
Thank you. Nicola.
Nicola Jones, Wandsworth CCG Chair. We started off discussions about this several months ago with a meeting where all of our practices represented twice a year in these meetings, and so the vast majority of practices were there, and we kind of kicked off the discussions then, and they've essentially been going on ever since. So the last month I went to each of our locality members forums, 3 of those, and we had a really good question and answer session then, where people were able to give comments and questions and concerns, and I think there was a general kind of comprehension of what's going on here. I think we got to that. They've had lots of documentation regarding this as well, some in the very kind of complex form actually, with all the information we could have, and some in easily digestible bites as well. So we've tried to make sure that we could help everybody to get to an understanding on what we're trying to do. So I think that the questions have now died down. There's very little more to come. We've actually got another phone-in session next week. Our LMC advised us that a secret ballot would be a good way to proceed. The practices were very happy with that, so that's what we'll be doing in 3 existing locality meetings happening, one next week on the 3rd. So I think that's the first one to go, actually. And then the 2 the following week. And at that point, we'll be able to count the Wandsworth vote.
Thank you.
Gnella Fernandez, Chair, Croydon CCG. So where we are is we've had 2 major council of members meetings. The first council of members meetings threw up a lot of questions, and that prompted having a month of weekly meetings with the LMC, the CCG, working with South West London, to go over all the information, the documentation and everything else. Having that multi-agency meeting to look at all the detail has meant that at the last council of members meeting, people are in a space where they have adequate information to have that meaningful vote on the 17th of October in Croydon. And I think certainly the majority of people are in a space where they will make a judgment based on the information, which is going to be a positive one. And really, I think, given where we were, we're in a different place at the moment in terms of direction of travel. So I think in terms of the vote, we've traditionally, on the major votes of this kind, had a secret ballot at the meeting itself, overseen with the LMC. And I think the LMC working with the membership, having the subgroup that has been fed back to the council of members last week, was a positive approach to take us forward.
Thank you.
Jeff Croucher, Sutton CCG. So our members are going to vote on the 15th of October. Our constitution makes it very clear that they vote with a majority show of hands, and so they are comfortable with that, following that constitutional rule. We've engaged over a 6-month period at all levels of commissioning, so our full membership meetings, joint locality meetings, individual locality meetings, and then individual conversations at practice level where required. So I think our membership has been fully engaged. I think we've communicated over a prolonged period where we are with this, and I think the responsibilities for the vote are now well known from the membership of Sutton.
Thank you.
Graham Lewis, Richmond CCG Chair. I've been engaging with my membership as with colleagues for multiple months now at regular meetings, and in fact one extraordinary meeting that we had last month. My most recent meeting was yesterday. I was fortunate enough that Andrew came from another CCG to give us a wider perspective and why we should move forward. My colleagues have turned up in numbers to all of my meetings and have been well engaged. And have been far less vocal recently than they were initially, which I take to be a good sign in that we've hopefully answered most of their concerns. We will be voting by secret ballot run by the LMC, which is the way we've voted in every time we've needed to vote in Richmond. That will be on the 9th of October, and I'm optimistic about the outcome.
Thank you. Please.
Could I just say one further thing? I just want to thank my chair colleagues as well, because having chairs from different areas visiting our memberships has really helped in being able to put faces to names for our members, particularly if we are going forward as a single South West London governing body. They want to know who's going to be sitting on that governing body, and so it was really useful for my fellow chairs to actually come along to the membership meetings.
Good, thank you. Right. So, Ben, you've got nothing else you want to draw to our attention?
I wonder whether it's just worth outlining next steps, actually, which was just shortly to say. So the application itself needs to be submitted on Monday. We've then got our first assessment meeting with London Region from NHS England on the 15th of October, and then that will go forward to a national assessment meeting, which happens on the 29th. Of October, and we hope to have hear how that's gone later in November.
Okay. Sarah, anything else that you need to flag to us?
Just if there's any other questions.
Okay. Well, if there aren't any further questions, the things that were being asked, there's 2 recommendations, as Sarah said. The first is that that we confirm that the CCGs should submit the merger application next week, and secondly, that the CIC recommends to the membership to support the new constitution. This is actually a meeting of each individual CCG meeting together. So I think just for the record, we probably ought to sort of record that each individual CCG supports, assuming it does, these recommendations. So I'll go around the room, if I may, and ask Merton if they're content with these recommendations.
Yes, I think we are. Not I think we are. We are.
Wandsworth.
Yes, thank you, we are.
Okay, Croydon.
Yeah, we're happy to support the submission of the merger application and to recommend to our membership support the new constitution.
Sutton.
We're happy to recommend the application and the support for our members.
Okay, Richmond.
We're happy to support the submission of the application and the recommendation to the membership to adopt the
Full
constitution.
house, we're happy to recommend.
Okay, well that's a full house, I think. So I think we have done our main business. Yes.
So I'm going to suggest now that what we actually do is that the chairs write to the membership to let them know that we have had this meeting and the outcome of the meeting, plus the recommendation to support the vote and as soon as possible, because obviously the votes are starting to happen soon. So that will be the process that we will do around letting our members know the outcome from today.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask if there's any questions from members of the public? No. Okay. Is there any other business? That's one thing I wanted to say. No. I just wanted to say thank you, repeating I think what Naz has already said, to particularly Ben, I think personally, but actually the team, because I know there's been an incredible amount of work in all this. And some of us are feeling slightly beaten on the head with, the paperwork that's been produced, which is, very, very, very good. Well done. So thank you very much, and thank you to everyone who's been a huge amount of work in individual CCGs, but also with the central team. So thank you all very much, and meeting closed. Thank you.